Yeah, I guess I'll just tell you about us. Like I said, I'll just tell you before we talk about anything, just so you know. We started this podcast was me and Wes. I live out in I said out here in Salt Lake now for 5 years, but I'm from Lexington, Kentucky, and Wes is also from You're from Madisonville, right?
Yeah, Madisonville, Kentucky. It's like Western
I
Kentucky.
live in I lived in Paris, Kentucky for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Go to Keelan. I lived on a racehorse farm there, in fact, or a horse farm
Okay.
in Paris, and for I don't know, almost a year, and go to Keeneland a lot.
Yeah.
I was
My
there.
uh my drummer until I moved out here, he lives in Paris now. He bought like a 1850 Civil War mansion out there.
Oh wow. Well, I used to um, B. Spears that used to play bass with Willie
Uh-huh.
Nelson.
Yeah, yeah.
Was a good friend of mine. He had a Civil War mansion. It was somewhere around Franklin. I think I was there a couple of times. I can't remember. It's been so long. But he had a really cool old Civil War mansion there that he was renovating, and it was I think it was somewhere around Franklin. I think I can't. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I know B Spears' name.
Yeah, he was a really good guy. Really good guy. I met him when we did when I was playing with Gary. We did a show in 1976 with Willie and Asleep at the Wheel at the Mobile, Alabama Civic Center.
Okay.
Was when
Wow.
I met him actually, and we got to be good friends after that. And I lived in Nashville several different times. I was born, in fact, right outside of Nashville in McMinnville.
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. I know where that is.
I've always spent a lot of time up there. We were just up there, last week doing a podcast and a thing at the Hall of Fame.
I was
Yeah,
there for the Hall
Wes
of Fame
went to it.
event.
Yeah.
You were.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw it. It was great.
It was fun. That was a really enjoyable day. It was.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and we listened to other podcasts too, and it seems like that was a good time as well.
It was. The whole day it was great.
Yeah. Well, we basically started this to because we both love Gary so much, and we were trying to look because I mean I've listened to him for a long time, but I couldn't find hardly any information. And when we found out Jimmy had the book coming out, I reached out to Chris and I was like, "Hey, we're starting this. We don't have no one listening. We're just gonna do this." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I'll send you guys a book to read and just wait and put those out until the book comes out." So me and Wes, we've been covering albums and then just talking about them. So we did Johnny Paycheck, we done
Hmm.
Charlie Pride, we did a few other ones, just stuff we like listening to. And so we've been waiting to get to this Gary one, and because that's the what we were wanting to do. And so we've been going album by album so far and using the book, but we got up to Little Junior this week. That's why I was messaging you, and I was curious about that song because I never heard that one. Someone had just put on YouTube, but who knows?
Which song was it again you were
Half
at?
alive and still drinking.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the song, but I don't. I was not. I was at quite a few of his sessions, but I don't remember anything much about that song
Yeah,
other than we have done it. We probably did all of his songs at one time or another. He'd just pull them out of the bag when he felt like it.
yeah. All right, so I guess we'll start just so we can get that stuff, and
Okay.
I guess do you want to just tell us a little bit about where you came from, how you got into music and stuff?
Well, I was like I said, I was born in McMinnville, Tennessee. We moved to Florida when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, something like that. We moved to Fort Pierce. My father was in the real estate and construction business with my grandfather, who was already living there.
Okay.
And I went to school there, went to all through high school and a couple of years of college. Uh, and started playing music right after I got out of high school. I started playing the guitar probably when I was, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And never took it seriously, just messed around with it, played some old Hank Williams songs and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But then uh, when I was in high school and right after I graduated, while I was in college, me and a couple of other guys used to go surfing a lot in Fort Pierce there where we lived.
Okay.
And the surf was really not great. It was back then, it was some days it was good, but a lot of days it was flat. And so we would
Yeah.
sit on our boards out in the ocean, out in the water there, and harmonize on Beach Boy songs just for something to do to kill time.
Oh yeah.
And we would draw a crowd every because there was a lot of people sitting on their boards out there. And everybody used to say, "You guys ought to start a band." So we did start a band. We and mostly doing Beach Boy covers, and that's when I actually really learned to play the guitar. I'd played in a folk scene group a little bit, and just kind of faked playing. Didn't really know how, and didn't really care to. But when we started that Beach Boy cover band, I had to learn how to actually play because I was going to be playing an electric guitar, and you were going
Yeah.
to actually be able to hear what I was doing. So that's when I started learning how to play. And we had that band for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and we got very good. We were doing a lot of gigs. We played everywhere from Miami to Cocoa, pretty much on the coast. And we were in a couple of Battle of the Bands. We won both of them. And the second one the first one was was a scam actually. We were supposed to win. So I don't even remember what we were supposed to win, but the guys who put the show on left town by the time we got there the next day to figure out what we were going to do about winning. And I don't remember what we won, but uh, they were gone. Down. It was funny as heck. So anyway, that one didn't mean anything, but the next one we won, and it was with a Gil Cabot out of Tampa, Florida, had a company called Paris Tower Records, and our prize was we made a single record with Paris Tower Records, and that was in 1967.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so we made a record. It was not distributed, not promoted, nothing. They gave us 500 copies of the record, and that
Oh
was
wow.
it. It got some local airplay, but we didn't try to do anything. We didn't try to promote it or do anything with it. We just said, "Ho hum, here we go."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that band broke up after a while, and I got in another band, and then I moved to California, lived out there for about 4 years. Met a lot of really interesting people while I was there, and played a little music, not a whole lot. But I was playing at a band down on Venice on the pier down there, and they made a movie in the club we were playing in called Walk the Walk about a drug dealer, and
Okay.
it was a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie, I think at the time, but they it was, I don't know if it was ever released or not. I could never find the movie. I looked for it. I didn't even think about it again until years later. And I just wondered if they even had us in the movie or if the movie ever came out because I never heard anything about it. And
Yeah.
so I started looking for it. And it was the craziest thing about that was when I met Jimmy and started talking to him, he got in contact with me about Gary and the book and that he was writing and all,
Uh-huh.
and wanted to he and I traded notes and articles and stuff like that for years.
Yeah.
I've known him probably 25 years through writing this book.
Uh-huh.
But I mentioned that to him one time, and he said, "You know something?" And I'm telling you, I checked with all the old movie, restoring people and collectors and everything. Nobody could find that movie. When I mentioned it to Jimmy, he said, "I've got that movie."
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
We restored it, and it's on. He was working. It was there was a website AWR or something like that. I can't remember, but that he was affiliated with at the time, and they had restored that movie. They got it from the archives of UCLA somehow. They had one copy of it in bad shape. They restored it, and it was on that website. He said, "I've got the movie,"
That's
and
crazy.
so he
Wow.
sent me the link, and I finally got to see it, and I was in the movie, but our band was in it just for a few minutes. Anyway, I was involved in music a little bit out there and different things, but mainly I had a special effects lighting company while I was there. But I got so tired of trying not to breathe. Back then they had no smog control, and the smog was really bad. And
Yeah.
I got to where I thought I was killing myself breathing. So I moved back to Florida, got back in the music business. And it was a year or two later, I played in a couple of little bands, and I was playing in a band called the Phoenix. And were, we worked for a while at the Wagon Wheel over in Okeechobee, which is one of the places Gary played, where he met Mel Tillis.
Okay.
But we were a house band there for uh, close to a year. And then we got a job working at the best gig on the coast there, really at Frankie and Johnny's in Fort Pierce, which is a very, very popular steakhouse, restaurant, nightclub, all that. And we were the house band there, and we were playing like 6 nights a week. We played there for about 2 years, really. Uh, Boy, that was an ordeal, and that will really get your fingers loose too.
I bet. That
Yeah.
is a long time to play.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
but anyway, during that time, Gary came back from actually he'd already moved back to Fort Pierce, but he'd been on the road playing piano with Nat Stuckey.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
when he got tired of that, and one of the reasons he got tired of it, I believe, was, if I remember right, was because he really started getting into the Allman Brothers. He got really obsessed with Dwayne's slide playing, and that was when this was around 72, 73. I think we started playing in Frankie and Johnny's around 73,
Okay.
but he was really uh, into the Allman Brothers and working on his guitar playing. He'd mostly been playing piano with the groups he'd been in it. And in fact, when he was with Nat, he was playing piano. So he was wanting to get involved with the guitar. So he had, quit Nat Stuckey, came back, and he came in and listened to us at Frankie and Johnny's, heard us play a few times, and he was very popular in the area already. Everyone knew him. He'd had a couple of little records out on VJ and some of this other
Uh-huh.
stuff. And he was a very popular local entertainer anyway. Uh, because he'd been to Nashville and written some hit songs and stuff like that. Everybody knew who he was. So he started bringing his guitar in and sitting in with us, and we welcomed it. We were tickled, and he fit right in because we were already doing a lot of Allman Brothers. We did, we were supposedly a country band.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a country venue. It was a steakhouse, and we had to play quiet for the first, during the dinner hour and that kind of stuff. But we would get we'd do some Allman Brothers, Marshall Tucker, and a lot of various things. We did Southern rock, but mostly country. And then when he started sitting in with us, he loved the Allman Brothers stuff we were doing. So he wanted to get up there and play. And so we said, heck yeah, come on, man, bring it. And so he actually even started playing in the band. He became a member of the band and just played with us regular in there. That was, we never asked the owner what he
Yeah.
thought about it, but we just said, come on, play. We love it. And he and I used to sit around his house all the time. In the daytime, I'd go over there almost every day, and we would work on the, twin guitar parts to like One Way Out, Southbound, uh, Blue Sky, all kinds of
Uh,
stuff.
I
All,
just
all
listened to Blue Sky before I got on here. I
uh,
love it.
I love it.
Me too.
It's one of my favorites. Uh, I still play it when I get a chance now. But anyway, we worked on all that stuff and worked out the twin guitars part, Rambling Man, and all those kind of things. And we were having a great time. And anytime before he even joined the band, anytime he would come into the club and sit in with us, within 20 minutes, the place would just it was the club was always crowded, and it was a big place. We had a good crowd there all the time, but every night of the week, in fact. But when he came in, it would get wall to wall. People within 20 minutes of him getting on stage, the place would just be packed to the walls because, like I said, he was very well known locally, and it would just the news traveled fast in a small town.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, it would just get packed. We did that for a couple of months like that, and the owner, Frank Guerrero, who was a great guy, he was a great to work for. It was a little more than what he could handle in that place, and he didn't really get really excited about all the crazy stuff that was going on when we all got and we
Yeah.
cranked the volume up to the roof, too. We didn't we jammed out. And one day he said, look, Bob, it's either going to be I hate to do this, but we can't handle this, and it's either going to have y'all are going to have to either let Gary not play with you, or you're going to have to I'm going to have to get another band because I can't handle this
Yeah.
in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And that's not against nothing against him. His club really couldn't handle what we were doing. It was a little too much for him.
Yeah.
So we said
Yeah.
we weren't about to, split with Gary. That was working so good, and it was sounding so good, and we all clicked together. So we said, we'll just leave then. We'll find another place. So we went down to a place called the Fort Pierce Hotel and started playing there. We played there, I don't know, 7 or 8 months, close to a year. And while we were there, that's probably some of the best music I've ever played in my life. We did and Gary thought so too. It was he thought that up until the end, really, and that was maybe the most cohesive band he ever played in. But we we played for a Sandy Shoes Festival dance, which was a big thing they have in Fort Pierce every year.
Uh-huh.
I think they still have it, but we played for that one while we were there, and that was probably the best show we ever did, and maybe the best show I've ever been involved in. But we blew the roof off of that place, and we did every night at the Fort Pierce Hotel. It was quite a gig. And while we were there during that gig was when Gary signed with RCA. He came out. The first record he released actually with them was while we were still playing there
So
was
this is like
Ramblin'.
75 or it would have been
It was
73.
74.
Okay.
It
Okay.
was it was during the time that he released his those his first record on. That was when he signed with RCA. Was when we were
Yeah,
playing,
yeah.
and his first single was Ramblin' Man, a kind of a bluegrassy version. You ever hear that one?
Yeah, I have because they put that out right before Out of Hand, right?
Well, they put it out right before Drinking Thing. They
Yeah.
actually put it
Yeah.
out right before I See the Want to in Your Eyes,
Yeah.
which got stolen, by Conway Twitty.
Yeah.
Stolen,
Yeah.
but covered. And Conway had a number one record of it, I
I
think,
know.
in the end. But anyway, his first record was Ramblin' Man. It didn't do anything. And so we were still playing in there, and he would go up to Nashville during the first part of the week, and then we would play. I think then we were just playing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights.
Okay.
And so he would go to Nashville and record during early in the week, and then he'd come home and play with us on the weekends and long weekends. And then after he put out Drinking Thing. I mean, I See the Want to in Your Eyes. It didn't, Conway covered it and knocked his off the table, so to speak. And so the DJs thought that was kind of, he was getting stiffed, and they flipped it over and started playing the B-side, which was Drinking Thing. Drinking Thing went way up the charts. It was, I don't remember how high it went, but it did good. And so on the success of that, and his second single was Out of Hand, which they both did real well. And he's still playing with us on the weekends. And that's when they took him out and put him with Charlie Pride, played piano. And so our band kind of fizzled around, and eventually broke up not too long after that. But and a couple of us started playing in different. We all went to different bands. Our drummer and our keyboard player went on the road with an R&B act, some recording guy. I can't remember who it was.
Really?
And myself and the bass player started playing in different bands, and I started my own band and got Daryl Dawson, our bass player from the Phoenix, to play keyboard. He was also a piano player, really fantastic musician, great guy, fantastic vocalist, everything. I got him to play with me in that band, and while we were playing in that band, he I can't remember. We ended up out of work or something. He started playing with a group called Aberdeen Rockfish Railroad, and it was actually a bluegrass rock and roll band with no drummer. They did a lot of bluegrass, and they did a lot of covers of like Beatles songs and did them bluegrass style, like we used to do. They asked me. One of the guys quit, and they asked me to be in the band to replace him, which I did, and because my band had kind of fizzled, but we did a lot of we did the best cover I've ever heard of "Fallen" by the Beatles. We did a bluegrass version of that. That was just it was really special. Anyway, we did a lot of that kind of stuff, and we did a lot of Eagles songs. We did a lot of I don't know, Dan Fogelberg, all kinds of things. And we kept doing. We did, we still did Allman Brothers things and all that kind of stuff, but we didn't even have a drummer. But Gary was doing an article for. He was somehow eventually, after She's Acting Single went number one. He 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 got to have his own band. RCA let him, and he hired us to be his backup band. Because myself and the bass player, who he'd worked with before, were in that band, and he hired that band to be his backup band on the road. But we had to have a drummer, so he got his old friend Larry Munson to come in and play drums with us. And we went up to we did 2 jobs on the road. I think this was probably New Year's, right after New Year's of 74, 75, way back then. We did 2 jobs out in New Mexico. We played in for a radio station out there. We played a couple of gigs with him, kind of the pretty good ones. I can't even remember what town they were in. Doesn't matter. But then we went to our band. Just went to Colorado and played for like a month out there in Snowmass Ski Resort without Larry, the drummer, just as the Rockfish Railroad, as we were before we started backing Gary up. But then in February of that year, we went to Nashville to do a recording session at Bradley's Barn, which was actually kind of an audition to see if RCA would let us be his permanent backup band, and also to demo some songs that he had written. We did. I think we did 5 songs, and they were all great. It was good stuff. He arranged and produced the whole session, but we backed him up on it, and it's some great stuff. I don't know if you've ever heard that session before.
I want to ask: is that the bluegrass session, or is
No,
it separate? Okay.
We sang backup with him on that. We didn't actually play on that session.
Okay.
But we did sing backup with him on Can't You See?
Okay.
Happened, and Easy
Easy.
People.
Me and Wes have
Yeah.
been diving in, and oh my gosh, those songs are unreal.
Oh, we
Some of the
love.
best.
Was
Yeah.
we really got him. Gary had a lot of bluegrass roots anyway, but
Oh yeah,
he loved the bluegrass stuff we were doing. In fact, we'd still do you know, a like a mini set of bluegrass stuff just about all the time. The Rockfish Railroad we had a guy who was a really good mandolin player, good fiddle player. We had a banjo player. We had the whole, it was the whole deal.
Yeah.
And so whenever we wanted to, we could, fall into that
uh-huh,
bluegrass line. And they had, I mean, the session we did at RCA for those songs was, I mean, they had A-list pickers. Buck White was playing mandolin,
yeah,
Bobby Thompson on the banjo, Billy Williams on fiddle, uh, from those guys from Hee Haw and everything. It's just, session players. And Josh Graves was playing mandolin on that stuff. That was a great
oh
session.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
all we did was sing backup on that stuff.
okay,
And but it was a great session. But the stuff that we did with Gary at Bradley's Barn for that audition demo session / demo session was the Hollywood song that Alabama ended up doing. We did a great version of that. We did a song called Fourth of July, one called I don't know, there was five about bedtime stories was one.
okay,
That
Oh,
was
yeah.
a crazy song. Jimmy mentions that one in the book.
yeah, I remember
And there was a couple of other ones. Stella May
that.
was
Okay,
another one, and I can't remember if I think there was one more, but anyway, we did that, and then and that stuff. I don't know why they won't ever let that stuff
yeah, does
out.
RCA still have it? Is that who has all the
Yeah,
tapes?
and they've never
Yeah.
released any of it. But the stuff was really good. It was very we had Weldon Meyer playing steel with us on that.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was we got our banjo player to learn to play steel. He went out and bought one and had to learn to
yeah, I
play it.
remember reading that Weldon taught him, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
Weldon helped him.
kind of,
He had to do a lot on his own, and he got he had a lot of people helping him. Uh, but he never really became a great steel player. But he really got pretty good for the situation we put
yeah,
him.
Yeah.
He did a good job. He learned the kickoff to "She's Acting Single," the steel part to that. So that
oh
was the
yeah,
thing, that we needed steel guitar for anyway. But Weldon played with us on that Bradley's Barn
wow,
session. He was a great guy. He was a great steel player. He was the house uh, steel guitar player at the Grand Ole Opry at the time when he did that session with us.
Yeah.
But anyway, after that, we went on the road with him for a pretty good while, and then one of our members quit, he got tired of being on the road. He couldn't handle it. His wife couldn't handle it, I guess, really, maybe. But anyway, he quit, and we played a little bit, but Gary ended up getting another group to back him up on the road because our band broke up after that,
uh-huh,
and we had all kinds of things going on. And that's when he started working with the Drugstore Cowboys
okay,
Okay. Yeah.
out in Texas, and those are great guys and a great little band. And um, I still traveled with Gary a lot then, and even later on after the next band broke up. But because I was kind of the road manager when we were doing all that stuff anyway, getting the money and
hmm,
keeping everybody on time and those kind of
yeah,
things. But
Yeah.
so I still traveled with him and did a lot of that. But later on, during that time we were broke up, I moved back to Tennessee and went to work with my dad building houses.
okay,
I got in the real estate business, and it wasn't too much longer that Ralph Profetto, our steel guitar banjo player, got me to call me and ask me if I'd come down and play New Year's Eve with him at a club in Vero Beach. And he got our old drummer from the Phoenix, Howard Focarelli, and our bass player, Daryl Dawson,
hmm,
and me and him to play at a club in Vero Beach for New Year's Eve. So I said, yeah, I'll come down there for for a week and do that. I went down a week early and we threw a band together and
Hmm.
we all knew a lot of the same songs anyway. So it wasn't a real ordeal to put it together to be able to do a show. And I think we played 5 nights a week there, and the place just was wall to wall, and it was a place called the Lamp Post on US 1 in Vero Beach, and the place was we packed it every night. Just I don't know why, how, but the lady that owned it just she was floored, and so we played New Year's Eve and all that, and she said, "Please, if I give you more money, will you come back and play one more week?"
Yeah.
We said, "Okay." So we did, and I've called my dad saying, "Oh, I'm going to be another week," and she kept doing that every week for months, and I
Oh.
kept saying, uh, I couldn't leave. It was too good. And we hired a friend of ours from West Palm that had played in another bluegrass, acoustic bluegrass group that had shown up down there. We got to be friends with them, and we hired one of them to play with us also. So we had a 5-piece band then, two guitar players, bass player, steel, banjo, and drums. And we were doing, all the same stuff we had done before. We were doing, and we were starting to do a lot of, I don't know, amazing rhythm aces and throwing other stuff in there too.
Okay.
But the same stuff that we had done, we always did Allman Brothers and Marshall Tucker stuff and things like that. So Gary was on the road with the playing with the Drugstore Cowboys, and we ended up we played there, I don't know, 6 months or so, and I just kind of shined my dad on
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
construction business. I said,
Couldn't leave
I'm a
him.
guitar picker
Yeah.
born, I'm a guitar picker bred. And so I just kept picking, and so we got hired. We had a really good following there. I mean, we were playing there 5 nights a week, and the place was jammed every night. And so they did an article about us in the Palm Beach Post, and we were getting very popular. And we got hired to back up Mel Tillis at
Oh,
a
wow.
for a concert, the first concert that was ever held at the Civic Center in Fort Pierce.
Oh.
They hired us to open for Mel, and so we did that, and we hung out with. Gary was there, and he came in and hung out with us, and we hung out with Mel on his bus and stuff like that. He's a really good guy. But Gary hired us to go back on the road with him then with that band, and that band was called Train Robbery.
Okay. Was that the late 70s?
That was Yes, it
Okay.
was the late 70s, and so we went back on the road with him, and we played with him for a pretty good while again. He had gotten to where the show we did with Willie Nelson and Asleep at the Wheel in Mobile was the only big concert we ever did with him, and it was about the only one he ever did after he left Charlie Pride, because he did not like those kind of gigs. He hated
Yes.
the fact he didn't like those 25,000 people crowds. He wanted to play for, well,
Yeah.
you've read the book, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
wanted
yeah.
people in his face. He wanted to be able to sling sweat and all that stuff. But
There's
uh,
one, Bob, that came up on YouTube, like, was it 2 weeks ago, Wes? I found,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, I'll have to send it to you if you haven't, but somebody uploaded at the Longhorn Ballroom where he was opening for Willie. It was like 1976.
yeah, we uh, we were playing with him back in 1976, the Rockfish Rower. But I don't. We played at the Longhorn Ballroom a lot, but we never opened. We never backed him up opening for Willie there.
I'll have to send it to you and you'll see. Someone just randomly put on
Really?
YouTube and it sounds like a soundboard recording. It's one of the best live Gary things
Huh.
I've heard. And
Wow,
it
I'd love
just,
to hear it. I don't think
yeah,
I've
I'll send
heard
it to you tonight. It just came, It just appeared on YouTube because I'm always looking, trying to find this, if anything will come, because you know how it is.
Hmm.
I'm just wondering if any of this stuff exists.
We did
Yeah, yeah.
a show there. We did one show there after the other guy in our band quit, and Dale Sellers played with us
Oh, wow.
for that gig. But that was one of the last gigs we did, and
Huh.
it was probably in 1976. But we weren't opening for Willie Nelson at the time, so that's probably
Okay.
not us on that
Yeah.
play behind him. But I'd love to hear it,
Yeah, I'll
man.
send it
Yeah,
to you. He opens with White Lightning.
yeah, yeah. It's a good one.
Yeah, hell yeah, very good.
Did he play a lot of his own songs with you guys at the time, or was it kind of just a mix?
Oh no, we played mostly his
Mostly
songs.
his stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mostly did his stuff. We would usually play a 20-minute set or so of our before we brought him out.
Okay.
But then when he came out, it was pretty much all Gary Stewart stuff. We did a few other people's songs, but not many. We didn't those kind of shows we did not do like Allman Brothers and stuff like
Mm,
that. It
Okay.
was Gary Stewart. Because he had enough material by then that we could pretty much stick to his songs.
yeah.
And but when we were in the train robbery, but we hired he ran into this kid up in Kentucky who was a really great uh, lead guitar player who knew everything by the Allman Brothers and was really on top of it all. So we just added him to the band, and at that time we had 3 or 4 lead guitar players. So we renamed the band the Honky Tonk Liberation Army.
Oh, yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's any recordings of that stuff that exist or
Not that I know of. We
really?
looked. Me and a friend of mine named Mark Lynn, who owns Delmore Records. Are you ever
Uh-huh.
familiar with them?
Yeah.
Well, he and I went all over the South. We even went and saw Marlowe Tackett,
Hmm.
who owned Marlowe's uh, in Pikeville, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We used to play there a lot too with both bands I was in with Gary. But uh, because one night they did a live recording of us, they had a sound booth and all that kind of stuff. But we never we went all over the country trying to find any live recordings we could find of either one of those bands or anything we could find live of Gary back in those days, and we never found anything.
Really?
uh, it was very disappointing, but that was before people did a lot of nobody had handheld recorders that
Yeah.
could hold up and
Yeah.
record stuff back then. It was an ordeal to get anything, to record anything back then. And no, I don't know of a single thing, any single live recording of either one of those bands actually, or the Phoenix either.
Yeah, I knew that when you
Yeah.
said the Phoenix.
It's really, I mean, that's really frustrating because we looked high and low and we
Yeah.
never found anything. But anyway, we worked with him until he had a bad car wreck and hurt his back. I can't remember if he broke his back but anyway, he had a real bad car wreck and couldn't tour for about a year. During that time, well, we played a few more gigs, uh, and then I moved back to Tennessee and went to work with Dean Dillon
Okay.
Okay.
and played on the road. He had just signed with RCA and only had a couple of singles out that hadn't done anything, but I was his one man road band. And we'd go play gigs, and we would sit in with the house band, and I would kind of lead them through his songs, which were kind of different, than your standard country tunes. And I played with him for a while and wrote a lot of stuff with him, and uh, Gary finally got it back together, and I didn't play with him anymore after that, but I did go back on the road with him some. I ended up while I was playing with Dean and writing with him, I ended up getting married and moving to South Georgia. Kind
Okay.
Yeah.
of threw the music business out the window.
Yeah.
But I would go back on the road with Gary a lot and go out to Texas and uh, I did a few shows with him off and on. The last time I actually played anything with him was in, I think it was about 1987. We did
Okay.
a cancer benefit that I was in, that I played with him in. And we stayed in close touch. He was one of my very best friends in the world the whole time.
Hmm.
And we always, stayed in close touch. He'd call me up in the middle of the night, and the phone would ring at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he'd say, "Boogie, this is No Nook of the North. What are you doing?" And we'd talk for hours, And anyway, he was one of the best friends I ever had. He was a great guy. He was funny as hell, had a great sense of humor, and one of the most talented people I've ever known, of course. Um, and it goes on from there.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
He
something.
called me about a week before his demise, after Mary Lou had died, and
Uh-huh.
it said, he was really down and he was really tore up. And I was at the time, I had my own real estate business, and up in South Georgia, right outside of Statesboro, and uh, he called me, and I could tell he was, he was in as bad a shape as I'd ever seen, worse, in fact. And so I started trying. I told him I was going to come down there and stay with him, for Christmas. He called me right before Christmas,
Uh-huh.
or a couple of weeks before. And I said, I'm coming down there. I'll be there as quick as I can get taken, some business taken care of. It took me a few days to get ready, but by the time I got my stuff squared away so that I could leave, he'd done killed himself.
Yeah.
Uh, so I didn't make it.
I
Terrible.
think yeah, it is tragic. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it seemed like him and Mary Lou they just were inseparable from what it seems.
they were. He could not live without her. He could not. He. They had a weird marriage, and they were married for a long time, and they went through a lot of ups and downs. And for a while there, they had an open marriage, and but they were. He could not live without her.
Yeah, you could tell.
He couldn't.
I don't know. I think that's something me and Wes talking about. I think being from Kentucky and just hearing the stories, I felt like I just like know him somehow.
Yeah.
I just feel
Yeah.
like I could tell who he was, and like there's like even you're talking about the Beach Boys earlier. Me and Wes are always joking about Mike Love. And when
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
we read where he would sign those letters to Jimmy as M Love, it's like and Gary and me and Wes are huge Jim Varney fans of
Oh my
Ernest.
God. Yes.
And it even
Yeah.
had the quote in there where I'm always telling people about Jim Varney. I'm like, well, he was a Shakespeare actor and he was brilliant. I love that he said Gary would always tell people that Jim Varney was real smart. I was like,
Yeah.
I just felt like, yeah, yeah, I just felt like I knew him.
Dean and I used to hang out a lot, and Gary and I did a lot at the Close Quarters Hotel there in Nashville. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Wes,
Yeah.
you in there?
That was around back in the, I don't know, the mid 80s somewhere. But when Dean and I used to hang it, I went back up to Nashville in 85 and 86 and worked with Dean again. And we worked, in fact, I was staff writer at Larry Butler's uh, publishing company, and right next door to Waylon's place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, we were the Butler's Bandits, and I wrote with Dean and some of the other guys there. Mickey Newberry and Larry John Wilson were also
Oh,
writers
wow.
there
Yeah.
at that company. But anyway, we used to hang out a lot at the Close Quarters, and Jim Varney was in there a lot.
Wow.
He was
Wow.
he was so funny. The guy, his dad, I think, used to announce boxing matches or something like that. I believe, if I remember correct.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
he would get drunk and act like he was announcing a boxing match. He could go off, and and there's a left hand, and all. He was funny as hell doing that stuff. He used to do that a lot, but that was among his other crazy antics that he was, you know, okay, Vern.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I just learned recently is from Vern Gosden, which I
Yeah, I
didn't.
heard about
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah, Jim's from Lexington. My uncle was actually went to high school with him, so
I
I've
didn't know
always loved.
who he was from. I never
Yeah,
knew.
he's from Lexington.
He was a funny son of a gun, though. I'll tell you, he was.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't imagine him and Gary talking to one another
He
because
was a
they
riot. I don't know. I never ran into him when I was with Gary, but
nah, yeah.
only with Dean. But he was God. He was crazy. But so was Gary. Gary was one of the funniest. I mean, he could be. He used to do some amazingly, he would. He was full of surprises, to say the least.
Well, even in that show I was talking to you, I was saying he is a lot of banter in that, and he's hilarious. And I could tell where he would be just. It kind of reminds me of Jim Varney a little bit.
Yeah. Did you ever hear the live thing from the Wagon Wheel show?
Yeah, yeah.
He's kind of that's a pretty good example of his onstage, banter. I wasn't playing with him then. That was a few years before, but he was a nut. In fact, we did a live show one time on a radio broadcast all across the Midwest, some big radio station in Minneapolis from a place called the Caboose.
Uh-huh.
And they were going to do the whole show. What's his name that played Buddy Holly in the movie?
Oh, Gary Busey.
Gary Busey came in and
Uh-huh.
sat in with us that night
Oh,
and did the last couple of sets with us. That was and hung out with us on the bus. That was a crazy night. But in the second set of the show, they were supposed to have the whole show live on the radio all night long.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Place was, I mean, that was a great place to play, and it was really packed. I mean, there were people almost on stage with us. It was so crowded. But uh, Gary, he 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 didn't curb his uh, mouth on the microphone, and he was saying the f. He was dropping f bombs everywhere, and just doing his usual self and telling crazy things, and they cut us off in the second set.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Does that
no.
exist anywhere, you think?
I
You
have
think
no
they
idea.
recorded
Now
that?
that's a good question because they carried the first set. Now I've never even thought of that if that's available or not. But I
Maybe.
think it was the second set that they cut us off.
It might
Yeah.
exist. I don't
Now,
know.
that's a good question. I
Ho-
don't even remember what radio station it was, but it was a live broadcast. That's a good question. That's a really good question that has never come up before.
Oh, well, I mean, that's what I mean. Us want to do this. We want to help find all this stuff. I
Gosh,
mean,
really,
Yeah.
it
that
means so much to get this stuff out there.
that would
I
be a great question. I wish that they had done the whole night because it
Yeah.
was Gary Busey in it and everything.
Oh my God. I
And
can't even imagine.
I never thought I'm going to look into that. I
Yeah.
can't remember what radio station that was, but you're the first person that's ever even mentioned that.
Well, I've
That
seen some of those every now and then where they have like those radio broadcasts. I know it's not
yeah,
probably on vinyl, but they might have it somewhere.
it was
hopefully so, yeah.
it was a big radio station up there. I can't remember even, but I'm going to look into that because that's a possibility.
Yeah. And that'd be a fun. What year was that?
That would have been somewhere around 1980,
Okay.
70,
Okay.
80. I can't remember exactly. I still have a flyer, little ad
Uh-huh.
for that gig
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
somewhere, and I know it has the date on it, but maybe not the year, but it was
Hmm.
either 79 or 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Gary Busey was a character.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you ever?
I can't even imagine.
I can't imagine what that second set would have been like, yeah.
Oh yeah, well, it was the third and fourth set that they cut off. It was somewhere during the second set that they stopped. But
Ah, okay.
I tell you, he was pretty good. He played guitar with us and everything. He wasn't bad either. He sang some of those Buddy Holly songs
I've
and
seen, yeah.
He wasn't bad at all. He earned the role, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He did pretty good. But Gary used to do a lot of Buddy Holly songs too. We used to do Rave On. He used to do that really good.
really.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Did
I
did he make a lot of set lists, or did you guys just kind of play whatever?
We pretty much he would do the set list. We never half the time we didn't even have one.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
We would just follow him because he was subject. He just went on feelings, and he whatever he felt like playing. That's what we played, and we just had to be ready.
what do you think made him so special live? Because that's just something everyone, obviously we didn't get to see him, but there's enough videos out there you can see it, but sadly I feel like, yeah, there's not enough. What do you think was just like, because it seems like everything that people talk about. I know Rodney Crowell said it was like sticking a plug in a socket and he just turned on or something.
I'll tell you, when we played with him at the Fort Pierce Hotel, he was really peaking then, especially with his guitar because he we worked a lot on, he was really wanting to get into guitar playing, and he was a good guitar player already, but when we
Hmm.
were playing there, I mean, he was phenomenal, and he was being on stage with him was just, I mean, he was electric. He played like his hair was on fire,
Yeah.
and he sang like that. And if you got, especially I remember at the hotel during those days, if we acted like we were, not really into it, he'd kick us in the ass. Just kick you right in the ass and come on, Boogie, or whatever. But I mean, he was over the top, man. He was just he loved it so much, and he was just so. It was like you plugged him into a light socket. He was he had more. Uh, I don't know, but what if you enthusiasm doesn't really, define it. It was way
Yeah.
beyond enthusiasm.
Because I mean, I feel like to me, it seems like he was mostly from reading the book and stuff too. It was just pure adrenaline. It wasn't like he was on drugs or anything when he was playing the shows.
Well, when working with him in the early days, he didn't really do drugs. In fact, he didn't even hardly drink.
Yeah, that's what it seemed.
Yeah.
He'd have a glass of wine now and then or something, but it was all adrenaline. Really, he was. That's when he was at his best before the wreck and before all that. That's why I think the days when we were playing at the hotel were the best music probably that he ever played,
Yeah.
because that was when his voice was the best.
Yeah.
Later on when he got into you know breaking himself down, whatever ways you want to say. And I don't know because I really wasn't around him that
Yeah.
much then. I went on the road with him some, and I went down when in fact he flew me down there for the show that he did with when he opened for Hank Williams Jr. at the Civic Center when
Uh-huh.
Greg Allman and Bobby Toller, their drummer for the Allman Brothers, then came over and stayed with us, and uh, he was already, pretty much. He was he was influenced by a lot of outside forces by then, and
Yeah.
he needed outside stimulation, I guess, whatever, at that point to get to the level he used to be without it.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in those situations, I guess. But anyway, he was he got influenced by a lot of things later on that just you know that that really inhibited his ability and talent. But he went up until the end. He could still pull it out.
Oh yeah, that's crazy that as little of stuff that exists, there's that video from the last thing he ever did,
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
Yeah.
week before he passed, and he sounds great in that.
yeah,
I
he
mean,
could still pull it out. He could still do it. Uh, it wasn't quite the same, but it was still he was so good in his early days that even when he lost, that fine edge, he still had, he still had God tons of talent.
Oh,
Yeah.
He never was bad.
I
He
mean,
There was some stuff I remember hearing of him where he'd get a little off key or something, but he still had it up until the end.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Well,
I
that's a,
think some of it was just the song choice, or like we were talking about Little Junior. There's some songs on there where it's just kind of like, well, seemed like he maybe wasn't as interested in it. But then even up until I was listening to I'm a Texan today, and that's got some
yeah.
great songs on it.
Oh, that's one of my that I'm a Texan. That's one of my favorite
It's
songs.
yeah, that's a great
Yeah.
record.
I love. Yeah, it is. It is. Well, I co-wrote two songs with him that are on his. I co-wrote several. Quite, in fact, I've got several that we never even finished writing
Oh
that I've
wow.
still got, and I keep saying I'm going to finish them one day, but I never have yet. I've kind of got a old man writer's block these days.
Hey, you got
Yeah.
time?
But anyway, we co-wrote the song called "One More"
Oh yeah.
on the Gary album, and we co-wrote "Honky Tonk Man," which was
Oh,
never on one of his albums, but it was the B side of his last single on RCA.
I didn't know you could. Me and Wes were just talking. That is, Bob. That's a amazing song.
Yeah, it
We
is.
You really. I mean, that's something we've talked about. I think as famous as Gary was with his songs like "She's Acting Single,"
mm-hmm.
the songs that he wrote himself are his best songs in my opinion. "Single
Easily.
Again,"
Yeah.
Oh
10
yeah,
years after this, "Honky Tonk Man." There's so many that
Easy People.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
Easy people. Oh,
He did some fan. There's several different recordings of Easy People. Uh, I like. I'm partial to the one that we sang on with him, but
yeah,
slow version of that too. That's very good. That he did. That was never released.
really,
But yeah, the stuff he wrote himself was out just outstanding.
yeah. It's very underappreciated.
The ones that we started that we never finished. We had some pretty good ones. But maybe I will one of these days.
Do you have demos of those with him, or were they just
No,
writing? Yeah.
we never even completed. We got about halfway through, but I don't think there's any that we actually finished that we never recorded.
Hmm.
There were
okay.
some that I wrote with Dean that we never recorded, but
Oh,
we had, in fact, Dean and I had one called the Blue Moon Hotel that we wrote one night, and all we did was just do a writer's demo with him, just doing a acoustic and singing, or both of us playing acoustics and he was singing. And the next day, before we ever got a chance to go into the studio and do a demo of it, Chips Moman heard it when he was playing it for Larry at the publishing company, and he put it on hold right then, just that work tape we had, and he wanted Roy Orbison to record it in that on
wow.
that album, that reunion Sun
Uh-huh.
reunion album that he did.
Yeah.
He put the song on hold for that, so we never even did a demo of it. And Roy was sick at the sessions and didn't record anything. So,
Uh,
and the song just kind of fell by the wayside.
It never got recorded at all.
Nope, never been recorded at all. And that happened with several that Dean and I wrote.
Did you introduce Gary to Dean, or was that a
I actually
Roy
did.
Day thing?
oh
I
wow. Okay.
did introduce them, and I didn't have anything to do with them getting together later on to do their, co
The
artist
co-album.
things. But I did introduce. Yeah, I was working with Dean when and Gary came up for Fanfare, and
Yeah.
we all got together at Fanfare, and I was with Dean, and we all got together, and that's when I actually introduced them to each other.
Did Gary play Fanfare,
No,
or was he just
he was just
yeah?
up there for Fanfare. Him and Lou came up.
Oh.
Uh, we all hung out together, but at the Fanfare booth and all that.
Wow.
But no, he didn't play at that. Uh,
Because I've
that
seen
was
some videos of that. Because we had
not. He might have played at one, but not at that one.
not that one. I've
No.
not seen any of him. I've just seen some Fanfare ones. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we saw one. What was it? Charlie
Charlie
Pride playing
Pride,
them one
yeah.
year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Do you like, or how do you feel about the Dean and Gary albums?
That was kind of contrived, and Gary felt like it, he didn't he wasn't crazy about the idea at all.
Yeah,
In fact, Dean loved it because it was, giving a boost to his career.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a takedown for Gary in a way. It wasn't that bad because they were both very talented artists. But it was Gary felt kind of he wasn't real excited about it.
yeah. They're not they're not my favorite of Gary's stuff, which isn't because I like both of them a lot too. But it just
Now they wrote some good songs out of that deal,
yeah,
though. It,
Yeah.
Smoking in the Rockies, that was a good one. There
yeah, that
was
one's good.
of them that Dean's he's a great artist. He's a great writer.
Oh, I
He and
love his writing.
he's
Yeah.
had
Same.
he and I used to be best of friends. I even lived with him for a while,
Oh wow,
but we were very tight for a long time. But he won't even speak to me anymore because of a disagreement we had over a song. I won't even
really?
get that, but
No,
we
that's fine.
really even communicate anymore, and I hate it because it's really kind of a misunderstanding, that we've never talked about.
Yeah.
One of those things.
Well, maybe you will one day.
You never know. Anyway, I think a lot of him. He did a lot for me, and that's life.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand.
I was just wondering if you and Gary had many stories about Kentucky or if he talked about that much. Josh and I know we said we're from there, but we're kind of obsessed with it. And it's a bit, it's part of why we love Gary. It's just seemed like he really loved it too. Like Easy People song like that, we hear those lyrics and it makes me think of, growing up in Kentucky and the people I knew.
Well, no, he didn't. He left there pretty young. We talked a lot about, and he had a lot of memories of it. But we, with the first group, with Rockfish Railroad, the group that did a lot of bluegrass, we did some one time when we were doing playing at Pikeville. We
Uh-huh.
went to his home, where he used to live up in the hollers of
Oh yeah.
Letcher
Yeah.
County, and went up there and met all his old family and had a dinner on the. In fact, there's a picture of us that I think is probably in the Country Music Highway Museum up there
Oh,
of us all out in the yard with one of his aunts.
I think I've seen that picture.
And
Yeah.
yeah, we were all out there playing some bluegrass music in the yard, and his aunt was there with us. And there's a table and we had dinner on the ground with them. And I think that's the only time we did that. But it was really it was a very nostalgic trip for him,
Well,
and he loved it up there. We played it at Marlowe's, in Pikeville a lot.
what was that place like? It sounded like it was crazy.
Have you ever been there?
I've never
Nah,
been to
I haven't.
I have family from Pikeville, but I've never been out there, and I know it was pretty wild back in the day.
Oh boy,
Yeah.
we used to have some time. One time we were there, and they'd always these guys would always bring us moonshine. Got to try this now, boys. And one time they gave us this guy gave us each a pint jar with, and each jar had two peaches in it.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "Hey, you boys take these, and when don't wait till you get back to the room, drink the moonshine, and then turn off the lights and get into bed and eat them peaches." He said, "But you better be laying down when you do, because if you're not, you will be."
Oh man.
And he was right.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, for Pikeville. Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh golly, really? That was we we never had a dull time in that place.
I bet.
That was always great. Marlowe was and Marlowe was fantastic. He was such a great guy. And a great entertainer. He had a good little career of his own. Not little. He did some records, and I can't remember what label he did them on. But Marlowe was a great guy. He was a great entertainer, and he had a great place. He ran a great business. When Mark Lynn and I went up there and saw him in what was that, Pigeon, not Pigeon Forge, what's the name? What's Gatlinburg or wherever
Oh
it
yeah,
was
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
later on. We went up and stayed with him for a day or two and had a great time and with him and his wife. And I don't know, it wasn't too much longer after that he died.
Uh, did you did Gary tour a lot? Like, did you guys do a lot of touring, or did you kind of stay in Texas and Florida?
We actually, with most of our gigs, with both of the road bands I was in with him, most of our gigs were out west. We played Texas a lot. We
Really?
were ever played in Florida, or we played in Virginia some. We played in Kentucky a lot.
Hmm.
We played in North Carolina some. We played in one time. We played in Orlando. I think that's probably it's some big club there. I think that was maybe the only big gig we ever did with him in Florida at all.
Really?
Uh,
Wow.
but most of the time, and Gary was very particular about a lot of things. He would, we would, we had a Holiday Rambler 45-foot motorhome that we traveled in and that we bought. And we would, we would go out and play Texas for 3 or 4 nights and then we'd go back to Florida. It was a 30-hour drive, and we'd stay home for a few days. And then when they would have a next gig, we'd do little jaunts. We'd stay out. Maybe we'd stay on the road for 2 weeks at a time,
Uh-huh.
and then we'd stay home for a week or two at a time. But during part of that time, and I'm trying to remember, it was during the Honky Tonk Liberation Army days that we our booking agent was Happy Shahan, who I can't remember the name of this company at the time that he had that was booking us, because we had several different ones. But he owned Alamo Village in Brackettville, Texas,
Okay.
which was where they filmed the movie The Alamo with John Wayne,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
they had a little western town there. It was a big ranch. They had a little western town, and they had the Alamo Village was still there up there with the fake Alamo and the whole thing. And he was our booking agent. And so a lot of the times when we were on the road out there, if we had a few days between shows, or maybe if we had 2 weeks back to back where we had a half a dozen shows with 4 or 5 days between,
Hmm.
we would we'd go stay at his ranch and ride horses and get in the shootouts in the streets and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. That was a great place.
Wow.
But we did that some, but usually most of the time we'd do 4 or 5 gigs out there, pretty close together, stay in a hotel between them, and then we would go back to Florida, and it might be a week before we'd go back on the road again. And when we were at home, we had a club we would always play in that we'd go play at when we were in town,
Hmm.
and that's what we did most of the time with both bands. And Gary he was a nut. But I was remembered one time we were going from Lubbock, Texas to Waco to play at the Melody Ranch or somewhere down there, I think. And our bus broke down, and we had to. That was before we bought our big Holiday Rambler. We had a old some kind of motorhome. I don't remember what it was that we had bought from my uncle, and it was on its last legs, and it broke down on us in Lubbock, and we had to rent a van and a car. We got a van to put our equipment in, and no, we had a truck that we hauled our equipment in at the time. So we had the truck, but only 3 people could ride in it. And there was a bunch of us, so we rented a Ford station wagon. We were headed to the gig, and while we were on the way there, we weren't too far. We weren't real far out of Waco. We stopped to get gas, and we checked the oil and all that kind of stuff, and we couldn't get the hood to go down on the car, and we were running late because we'd had to go through all kind of stuff with the broke down bus and the renting the car and all that. So we were on a pretty tight schedule at that point. And we couldn't get the hood to close on that car. So Gary came out the store, out of the gas station store, and saw us and said, what's wrong here?" We said, "The damn hood won't go down." So he jumped up on the damn car and started kicking the hood and stomping on it. He got it. I bit the hell out of it, of course, but he started dancing around on that hood of that car, and we finally got it shut. And I mean, it destroyed the hood, but it was closed. So he said, "Let's go, boys." We jumped in the car and we got there, and we were running a little bit late, and we never dressed. That was back when everybody, all country bands used to wear polyester suits and
Yeah.
patent leather boots and fancy hair, and we that wasn't us. That we were, we were Levi's and boots and t-shirts and long
Hmm.
hair and those kind of things, and it
Yeah.
didn't always sit real well. When we got to the Melody Ranch there, the guy that owned it, he said, where's y'all's, you ain't gonna play like that, are you? Where's your clothes at? Where's your suits at?" And Gary just told him our wardrobe bus van broke down and we couldn't get there. We were gonna have to play like we were. And it kind of got ticked him off a little bit. And he said, "But we got David Allen Coe coming. He's gonna sit in with us." And at the time, David Allen Coe had a bad reputation out there.
Yeah.
But David Allen Coe's coming to sit in with us, so it'll be all right. And that guy, the guy that owned it, was he didn't like that at all. But it was funny and it was very typical of Gary.
Speaking of David on Code, do you know anything about the song they made together?
No, I know when I was up there with Gary one time, uh, we were at the Hall of Fame Motor Inn hanging out with out at Fair and Young and a bunch of those guys in there, and he came in, and I already knew him. I used to date his a girl that played bass in his band at one time. He had all
The all
band,
girl band, yeah.
the Anderson sisters, and
Yeah.
anyway, I used to date Mary Beth, but he came in, and he was funny. He saw us. He saw Gary, and he already did. We both already knew him, and he wanted us to go out to his motorhome with him and let him show us his magic show, which he did. He had a little table set up with a cloth over it, and he was doing all these, magic tricks like you buy at the magic store. Where the magic
Oh,
eggs and all this kind of stuff. It was very entertaining, though, to say the least. It
oh
was
man.
funny. That happened to. I remember that.
Wow. What did
Maybe
Gary think of
about
that?
David Allen Coe.
I, for better or worse, love David Allen Covey. I think when I think of Gary, I think of like super authentic person, and David Allen Coe is maybe a figment of his own mind a little bit, but
He is a character
he
now. I
seems
will
like a,
say he's
yeah.
one of a kind for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
He he's unique, if nothing else.
Yeah.
But he's very entertaining. That was the most entertaining magic show I think I've ever seen.
I bet. I mean, for better or worse, I think him and Gary too are both probably two of the most underappreciated artists that kind of. I don't think Gary
Yeah,
really. I know Gary had some flaws, but I think he probably did a lot less to hurt his career than David. But
they were both. Yeah, David Allen Coe is really very good. Actually,
oh, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he did some great stuff. But yeah, I think you're right. They both were probably the two most underappreciated country artists that I can think of.
Yeah, and they had similar. Mel Tillis helped David Allen Coe out too, and
Yeah,
I know, like, I mean, he had Warren Haynes in his band there for a while. A lot of
yeah,
Yeah.
Southern rock crossover stuffs.
uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
funny enough, because I'm out here in Utah now, David Allen Coe made that weird family. Have you heard that? It's his Mormon album.
No, I don't think I have.
So there is a song on there about being Mormon and his wives. But
Oh,
if I'll
he
have
had
to,
surgery on that in that motorhome with him when he did his
yeah,
bed.
but on that album is a song called, uh, oh shoot, what's the name of that song? Bad Impressions.
Uh-huh.
You
Yeah.
know that song?
I have heard that. Yes.
where Gary sings on it.
Golly, I
He
forgot all
sings
about
like
that.
two lines on it for some reason.
Yes, you're right.
It's
You're right.
very odd. I was like, well, that's a Utah,
Yeah,
and there's Gary and Dave. I was like, what in the world's going on?
that you're right. God, I forgot
He's
all about.
not even credited. I don't know. I really don't even know why he's on it, but it's kind of,
I don't know either. Well, I tell you what, Gary. I one time I was in Nashville with him when he was doing a session. It was after I'd played. It was years after I'd got through playing with him, but I traveled with him a lot even then. But I was in Nashville with him for a recording session. He was doing audition in a road band, and he had me record one of my songs that I had written
huh.
way before, and he played electric piano and sang harmony on it with me. That was I've never heard him sing background with anybody else.
Wow. Do you
Wow.
have that still?
I have it, but
Uh,
it never released anywhere. But
yeah.
I do have the song.
Oh, I'd love to hear
It's
that.
not bad either. I'll send it to you.
I'm sure.
I've got it on, so I think it's on my YouTube channel, in fact.
Well, if you wrote Honky Tonk Man, I got to hear some more of these, Bob. I didn't know you wrote stuff with Dean too.
Yeah, I did. I wrote some with some other folks. I've got a CD that I did of all songs that I wrote. I recorded it in 1993, and I did it at RCA.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
okay.
I'll send you one of them if you'd like to
Oh,
hear.
oh, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
We want to hear your stuff just as much as Gary. I mean, you just as important.
It's
Important as
got
the
a
story.
dozen songs on it that I wrote, and it's all kind of different stuff. There's country, there's blues, there's southern rock and roll, there's gospel, western swing. Even got a kind of a Jimmy Buffett song on there.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
We were just talking about that with the whiskey trip with the
Yeah,
with
Yeah, it's
his
kind
little
of got a
marim. It's
it
kind of got
does.
a
Now, Roy Day was I. It wasn't actually RCA that I did my. It was in there. It was in the RCA studios.
okay.
They did it in Studio C, but it wasn't owned by RCA at the time. A guy who played keyboards with us in the Phoenix, Fred Bogart, produced it, and engineered it. It was actually probably the first digital studio in Nashville at the time, and he engineered it and did it. And we had some great musicians in there that played on it. Steve Henson, who was the
Hmm.
house steel guitar player at the Grand Ole Opry at the
Yeah.
time.
uh-huh.
Jack Pearson, Wayne Perkins, Hank Singer,
Wow.
bunch of great people played on my album, and it's really very good. At least instrumentally, some good songs on there too. But
I mean, when
anyway,
you're used to hearing Gary sing, it's kind you're probably all of us are gonna. I did karaoke the other night and try to do your place or mine, and I feel like an okay singer, but man, it just reminds me that he was on another planet.
yeah, he was that. If you send me an address or something, I'll send you guys one.
Okay, I would love that.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you too much longer, Bob. Do you have any, I don't know, another story or two that just like sticks out to you about Gary or your time with him that's just funny or anything that's
Uh, God, no, we've. I can't think of anything that it's not that I haven't already told somewhere.
there's probably so many, or some you probably don't want to tell.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot that just should remain untold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably most of it, really. But
Well, I guess leave it at this. What do you want people that maybe have never heard Gary or don't know him very well? I mean, I think there's always this notion like, oh, he was this crazy troubled guy or something, but from what I get, and like I said, I feel like just even reading this, I feel like I knew him. It seemed like he was such a maybe underappreciated, misunderstood, and just it seemed like he was such a kind person. And
he was one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet. He was so generous. He I used a couple of his guitars for a couple of years at a time. He gave me a Marshall amplifier one time
wow,
that he just got tired of, and he said, "Here, you need to use this, Boogie. Here, take this. You can have it." and he gave me a really nice satin shirt one time. He's given me a lot of stuff, or he did, and he would do that for everybody. He was very generous, and he was one of the nicest guys you'd ever meet, and one of the actually not educated particularly, but one of the most intelligent, sharpest, quick thinking, uh, great sense of humor. I mean, the guy was just he was very unique and very not just underrated, but underappreciated even
Yeah.
in so many ways. He was quite a character. There
Yeah.
ain't another one like him. I don't think there will be.
Oh no, there never
No.
has. No one comes close in my opinion. I mean,
Mm-mm.
me and Wes have talked a lot and re-listened to all this stuff. I don't think there's anyone better. And I love George Jones and a lot of those people, but I even when I was listening to those covers that Gary did of George Jones, he blows those away. And
Gary could do. He
I
could do.
don't know.
He could
Yeah.
do any kind of music. He was the blues, the almond. One time we were in one thing we were in Phoenix at Mr. Lucky's one time,
Uh,
and there was very few places we went where they actually had a piano on stage,
yeah.
and we never asked for one because he'd always just play the guitar. But there was one on stage there, a grand piano on stage at Mr. Lucky's, and he got on that thing and played a few songs, and he did the best version of "Don't Be Angry with Me, Darling"
Wow.
that anyone could ever do. It was just, I mean, everything about it. The piano. I wish we had that on tape because that was. But he was capable of doing that without, under any circumstances, without notice. He'd break into something, and it was. He was very rare and very special.
Yeah. It certainly
Yeah.
seems like it.
When I went to that and saw you all talk at the Country Music Hall of Fame, it feels like such a special time. I know Jimmy's book is helping this a lot, but just seems like a lot more people are talking about Gary's music. And Josh and I have been talking about him for years, and it feels like it's just fun to know that a lot of other people care and his music means something to people, and feels like people are finally talking more about that.
They are. I moderate. I'm one of the administrators of a Facebook page that a girl in Germany. I've known her for God forever. She's come to you doing. She's the biggest Gary Stewart fan I can think of. Her name's Jutta Hinschel, and she's from Germany. And she became a Gary Stewart fan. She's come to the United States to see him and all that kind of stuff. And this is like from way back. And she got me to help her administrate that web page. And for years, it was just we had 1,000 up to about 1,000 members or so, something like that. But when Jimmy started right after that Village Voice article, especially from then on, we've had more and more people joining. And ever since talk about this book came out, uh, we've had, I mean, sometimes hundreds of people in a day join that site. We have over 5,000 people now, and it's, uh, you know, 50 people a day join it. Now
Yeah,
it's
that's
so
amazing.
people are really, starting to catch on.
Yeah, and I mean, Bob, I'm 30. We're both, well, Wes, you're older than me now. You just turned 35. I'm 34, but I mean, I've played Gary for people, some in their 20s, girls that listen to like pop music and stuff.
Yeah.
And even though their dad's, I played it for a friend. I was like, what do you think of this song? And they're like, man, this guy's voice is amazing. And that people that don't never even listen to country, don't even know. And I've had so many friends here, she's acting single and
Oh,
go, wow, this sounds like something. This is country. And I'm like, this is Gary Stewart. He's
Yeah.
on
it's
it. And,
almost
and I think
a
people keep having that. They'll just randomly hear it. And I'm like, even if they don't listen to country, it's just how good he was. And it's refreshing that people have that opinion. I mean, it stinks that it's 50 years. See, this year we were talking about stepping out is now, I think this is the 50th year of stepping out.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's a
it's a
shame that people are just now, but I mean, I don't know. That's why anything me and Wes can do to help you or anything, I mean, It's important. It's just as important to us, and that's why we even wanted to do this podcast, just to get
I I
and keep getting
appreciate it.
it
I
out.
appreciate both of you guys. It's fantastic what you're doing. It
Oh,
is.
thank.
I mean, more power to her and to you. And anything I can do at any time that to contribute or help or
Yeah,
you know carry the flag, man, it it tickles the hell out of me that that he's finally getting the kind of recognition that he's always deserved.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we needs more.
He sure
Yeah,
does.
We need to get this stuff. It's funny. The week we put stepping out our episode out, we were talking about this. You can't even listen to this album. And then the day later, Wes was like, "Stepping Out's on streaming today." And we're like,
yeah,
"What?"
Yeah.
We had to get our vinyl copies out to listen to talk about it. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it's a little. I even had a friend that works. She works with Sony sometime. I was like, "How do you get any contact with RCA to and Sony to find this? Like, what? How do you get this stuff put out?"
yes. There's still a
Uh,
few that aren't on there. I don't think Little Junior's on there.
Oh no,
no,
that most of his stuff isn't.
no. Cactus and Rose, Gary's not on there. None of the Dean Dillon you can find.
Yep.
And like you said, I want to hear your guys' session and I want to hear that bluegrass session. That's a
Oh
shame.
I
That's
yeah,
will. I've got some of those things on tape. If you send me both your addresses. Y'all live in the same town, or
no, he's in Nashville. I'm in Salt
that's
Lake.
what I thought. That's what I thought. Both of you send me your addresses. I'll send you one of my CDs, and
Okay.
I'll send y'all. Do you have any of those recordings of the bluegrass session? Like,
No, just the
uh,
no,
ones that are on the that they
can't,
put on the studio.
heard "Can't You See"?
I
Is
got that one on, was that
yeah.
on Little Junior?
Oh yeah, that was and
Yeah.
pretend
yeah, yeah.
they did that one. They released that, didn't they?
Which one?
Pretend I never happened.
Yeah, I'll have to
Uh-huh.
send you, Bob. I covered that one on a country album I did, and I was really inspired by his mandolin, so I had my friend play mandolin on it.
Oh, great. That's Buck White playing mandolin.
Yeah,
Oh wow. Yeah.
because I think Gary's is the only version that has mandolin on it.
Oh, it is. Yes.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Willie's and Waylon's didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, do it, please. And you send me your addresses, I'll send you all that stuff
All
too.
right,
I
Uh,
will.
and it's been fantastic. I really appreciate you.
same.
You
Oh,
know,
Yeah, same,
Bob,
Bob.
we appreciate you. I
Yeah,
mean,
Bob, this is
this meant
special
the
for
world
us.
to us getting to
well, hey,
talk to you.
anything that I can do at any time.
Okay.
If you think of anything else, or if if you got any questions, Jimmy, I spent 25 years answering questions from him
Mhm.
almost every day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, hey, we'll stay in contact for sure. It's meant so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah,
likewise,
thank you.
you two
Yeah.
guys.
Really appreciate it, Bob. Thank you. Have a good night. Love you.